Greetings, it is I, Tatasnar Van Dracovin, your Lord and Emperor here at the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. Today we're talking Star Trek Adventures again. We're diving back in, and today I'm going to be doing, I assume a multi-part, just because of the depths of it, a basic species guide to a lot of these. Now, there might be a little bit more work on this one. I've done my best to set up everything, but the sheer fact is that there are 5 books, plus there are some supplemental material people have put out there that I can talk about of different species you can play. The supplemental material is information that some people came up with that, is a third-party source. It's a pretty decent one if I'm going to talk about that, and is used in a couple of different places. Is actually used in one of the main Star Trek Adventures programs that you can do for creating character, which I should probably get that link from someone I have and put that into the description along with it. It's a character creation link that if you wanted to create a character, you'd have to copy down the stuff from it, but it's a good way of doing it. But it does allow for a lot of things from all these books. Effectively, I'm going to be going through the Core book first, then the Alpha Quadrant, Beta Quadrant, Gamma Quadrant, Delta Quadrant, because those quadrants are those explored temporally in time. Alpha Quadrant was big on original series. Beta Quadrant, a lot of that was introduced during Next Gen. Of course, Gamma Quadrant versus DS9. And Delta Quadrant in Voyager. So, why don't I throw myself over into the corner? I keep remembering I'm mirrored. Over here. And remember I'm over there. And let's open up the book here to the Star Trek Core Rulebook here. So, Core Rulebook, let's start with the ones that are introduced here. This is the basic species that are very core Federation species that you can find in large numbers. And again, these are specifically Federation. The thing about these different guides is they do introduce others that could be played in the Federation, but aren't normal. We start with the Andorians, which are one of the founders of the Federation, so that's a big thing there. They've been there since the beginning. They're people from an ice planet. Well, technically an ice moon, the frozen moon of Andoria. They've been allies with humanity since those early days. If you ever watch the Enterprise show, you can see where Enterprise, when they originally, the Andorians and Vulcans had a tumultuous relationship, and it was humans that kind of brought them into more of a peaceful relationship and, work between them. Pale blue skin, pale hair, antennae. They've had a very strict military tradition. While their main military kind of went away during the time of the Federation, they still have this tradition, so that's why there are plenty of Andorians that join the Federation. The Federation is a combination science/exploration/ military/police kind of unit. So you get daring, control, and presence. Their trait, it is good against cold. And the 2 talents they have is proud and honorable, and the Oshan. The Oshan is a like an honor duel that they have with special mining tools. So you could have that as a talent, that you know how to honor duel people and honor duel them well. It could come up. Honestly, it's like one of those interesting things. And you're trained with the melee weapon, the Ushan. So yeah. The proud and honorable, of course, it gives some bonuses, reduces some difficulty to being coerced into breaking a promise, betraying allies, or acting dishonorable. So pretty simple there. Andorians are a very interesting species to play. They are very emotional, while you almost kind of consider Vulcans are very low emotion. Humans are kind of like the mid-ground, and Andorians tend to be very at that high end. They're very passionate people and aggressive. They show their emotions very loudly. So that's the Andorians. Of course, we have the Bajoran. So Bajor was kind of at the end of the DS9 route. That's when they were kind of actually joining the Federation. But because of their deep ties with the Federation, having been freed from the Cardassian Union, or the occupation ended, so they became a free planet. They've had close ties with the Federation, and there are members of them which have joined the Federation because of that, or the Starfleet. I should really mean Starfleet is actually where it is. So they aren't really members of the Federation. They kind of become it technically by, like, if you're using the end of that Starfleet era, that you could have them kind of join as they were in the process of beginning to join at the end of, as I said, DS9. But again, there are members of them that have joined Starfleet other than that. Starfleet opens its doors to more than just members of the Federation. It's just that you have to kind of go by the rules of the Federation if you join it. Starfleet has science missions, it has exploration missions, and you could join for those things rather than the, more defending, policing of Federation space. There's plenty of, like, science groups you can join with because of that, but because it is this joint process of a lot of different things is Starfleet. Plenty of people join it. And, so yes. So, yeah. And a lot of Bajorans were scattered to the Alpha Quadrant during the occupations, so there are plenty that could have ended up on other Federation planets and are living there. Or you could be from Bajor itself, now free from Cardassian control. So, again, they have a very strong sort of religious vibe to them. They have a religious doctrine about these prophets, and the wormhole is seen as like a celestial temple where the prophets come from. Control, daring, insight you get. Of course, yeah, they mentioned it. You obviously would be hostile towards Cardassians. I mean, yeah. Yeah. But you're spiritual religious, and you get orb experience or strong pog. The orb experience is that you've used one of the, like, prophetic orbs that connects with the wormhole aliens who are supposedly the prophets of the Bajorans, that exist outside of time and space. And the strong pa is, it's kind of like, I guess it would be described as like a religious perseverance. You believe in the prophets very strongly, and you can use that as kind of like a way to keep your mind centered, your high religious belief. It's an interesting situation the Bajorans are in because they technically have these interesting things which are, they look at them as prophets, that's what they call them, the prophets. They don't look at them in the same way a lot of other religions look at their religious beings, but they are beings that exist outside in time and space, which are proven to be actual beings that control this wormhole, and they did send these orbs probably more to, like, judge beings in our reality versus, to connect with them and understand them more. And, they've always looked after the Bajorans and stuff like that because they're the ones that are near the wormhole. And they're like, oh, these things are interesting. So it's sort of like, yeah, maybe we don't see them as normal, like, in a lot of religious situations you'd see them as gods, but they've an understanding, like, they are beings that are very powerful and alien, unusual, and have had an influence on their culture. And so they look to them. It's an interesting situation for the Bajorans. Very interesting culturally. Definitely. Betazoid. Alright, hey, planet Betazoid is a very idyllic, verdant world, very, I wouldn't call it like a paradise, but a world where the environment is very stable, which leads to a very idyllic time. And they are a pretty valued member of the Federation because of their people. Betazoids have levels of telepathy. Many of them are strictly empaths, and many of them also can be telepaths. Those that are empaths are very useful in things like counselor positions, where they oftentimes end up in. Now, that doesn't mean they don't get into other situations too, but because of these telepathic abilities, it does end up being interesting culturally. They're a culture that is very open because you really can't hide things from each other. Beta Zeds tend to be very open about everything. You are in a planet where everybody else can kind of read minds and, read emotions. You're not hiding anything about it. So there aren't really a lot of secrets in the Betazoid society. They've kind of had to do that because of their natural talents. So you will be telepathic to some degree, you know, even if you're not really using your abilities. And, like, it might not be very strong telepathy, it could be very weak ones, but you will have some latent level, whether it's, like, reading some basic emotions or thoughts or something, that'll kind of be there. They get insight, presence, and reason. And the two talents you can have are empath or telepath. The one empath where you're trained in yourself almost to detect emotions a lot stronger. And of course telepath to like read minds and thoughts and stuff like that. Both of which can be very powerful and very useful. Reading what someone is thinking can give you information, but also reading what they're feeling at the same time, or reading what they're feeling rather, can also give you a host of information that is very useful to readable. So Betazoids are very interesting from planet Betazoid. Betazoids from Betazoid. A very interesting one also to choose to play. Denobulan. So the Denobulans from Denobula are like a very gregarious, a very personal people. They've been allies with the humanity for a long time also. They didn't join the Federation originally, but soon after the Federation formed, they were one of the first groups to then join it afterwards. So, yeah. They're very communal. So if a Denobulan will have several spouses. Yeah, which each of those spouses could have several spouses and stuff like that, and dozens of children between all of them and stuff. So it's kind of this kind of communal thing where a Denobulan community is like, you do have people you choose to be your mate almost, but you have multiple ones. And it's sort of like you declaring that these are the people that I'm in a relationship with, and then each of that person chooses people that they're in relationships with, and you're all in this interconnected web of relationships. Yeah. They're very scholarly people, large families, gregarious nature, and not many of them, unfortunately, because of the family nature of them, venture from their homeworld. So they are one that you can find them in Starfleet, but they are rarer in Starfleet just because, yes, they're a big member of the Federation. They're very with each other, you know. Another big thing about them is they are very robust in their immune systems. They are vulnerable to a number of types of radiation, but, you know, also adaptive climbers, and they don't need to sleep. They hibernate for several days each year. So, yeah. So basically, they're a species that doesn't sleep except for a couple of days each year. They hibernate. Also is another one. So cultural flexibility is one of their abilities, a parent figure. The cultural flexibility is adapting to cultures very easily because of their scholarly knowledge, they finding out about nature, and their adaptable nature to having these massive communities and stuff of extended families. You know, when you're learning about an unfamiliar culture, it makes it easier. The parent figure, again, because you've got these massive families that are interconnected, and, you know, it's dealing with these groups and keeping them together, is many Denobulans adapt an ability to that, you know, when involving multiple people to organize them quite well. It works not only with rowdy children, but it also works with subordinates or people that you're working with to, you know, make them work better together. So it's very interesting. Denobulans are a very fun character to do. They are certainly very unique and interesting for a lot of their mechanics as a humanoid, but also because of the nature of their, you know, society and family units and stuff. So another cool one to maybe check out. Of course, we have humans from Earth in the Solar System. You know, it's humans come from are very habitable. The thing about it is Earth, even as habitable worlds go, it's not a very nice habitable world. You know, there are plenty of habitable worlds out there. Earth just tends to be very tumultuous, and, you know, that tumultuousness came to the societies of humanity. That there has always been a lot of fracturing and cultural stuff. But, post the Third World War, where Earth pivoted, especially after the Vulcans came and visited them, to a global society, and, basically said, after the Third World War, never again, we can be together, there's much more out there. It's, Earth kind of is the Australia of planets. It really would be described as that. Australia, we on Earth look as Australia's place with a lot of terrible things. It's really bad. Like, it's a mixed bag. It's very dangerous. It's a very hard place to live. That's Earth in a nutshell when we compare it to other galactic bodies. Our axis is heavily tilted. If, we had, a very straight axis, our weather patterns would be a lot simpler. There are planets that have not the same kind of tilt that we have. We have a pretty extreme tilt when it comes to axes, and a couple other things that create situations where our world is very volatile. But studying planetary stuff, we can see that our planet is very volatile. Hey, humans, we're adaptable and resilient. That is our gift to the universe. We're a very adaptable species. Humans, I kind of like to describe as the cockroach of the humanoids. We do our best. So they're very nice to humans. They give them basically very similar to D&D or other Pathfinder all stuff. They kind of give 3 to any tribute because the nature of the variety of humanity, because of the difficult situations they came up with originally, they're very adaptable. We don't have a very stable system to be evolving in. We have instability. So 3 to any attribute. And then either Resolute or Spirit of Discovery. Spirit of Discovery is that kind of drive or spirit to venture into the unknown, to explore, to discover, and you get an extra determination. You can spend a determination to add 3 points of momentum to your pool. So you can spend your determination to just boost everybody, with the Spirit of Discovery. And Resolute, you increase your maximum stress by 3. Your stress is basically your health, so you're more difficult to take down. So humans do have, a very dichotomic nature, both having strong emotions and oftentimes careful reason. It's one of those reasons the Vulcans kind of half-liked us. It's like, oh, you can be very reasonable at times, but then you just wild off, so it's like, oh, you could probably be taught to be more like us, and we're like, ha ha ha, so you think, human, ha ha. God, it is. I like because they make the Earth of the Federation time period a very different one. That it went through a lot of shit to get to where it was. We go through a lot of stuff in our world now, and we understand that a lot of things happened. But, a nuclear world war is not something that we've had to deal with. And a lot of other terrible things that happened, creating genetic super soldiers that, devastate entire periods of time. Tumultuous things that, our society basically, as we know it, breaks down and becomes something a little different and eventually evolves something better out of it. That's maybe, maybe the idealism of getting to that is really nice, and that's another reason to play a human in Star Trek world, is the idealism that we as a people can strive to be better. But again, we have to go through a lot of crap to get there, to get to that more idealized society that is the Federation. And even then, it's still humanity. The core of the Federation, the part of it that is humanity, is still there. It still is flawed. It's not perfect. It's just they've found a, more utopian way to do something, more utilitarian. They've found ways to improve and get away from some of the more base things. Anyway. So Tellarites, coming from Tellar Prime. So they're from a temperate planet in the Alpha Quadrant, of course. So they're very culturally abrasive, argumentative. They have a stubborn pride, quick temper, very little patience. And the thing is, that's a very superficial way to look at Tellarites. The idea is that their argumentative nature is because they're skeptical of things and have an intellectual honesty about anything. So they will argue with you because they want to know more about what you're talking about. They want to find out more, develop more information about it, and they're probably skeptical about what you initially say. So, yeah, there's no idea, as I say here, there's no idea or concept a person is beyond challenge or analysis. So that basically means anybody can be challenged or reanalyzed to make sure, like, they've been going about it from the correct way. And they're very big on debate. It's one of the big things about them. But they, they're very big on criticisms, complaints, and insults to each other that they'll just throw out friendly, so they're very gruff people. Not for terrible or malice ways, So it's sort of like, you should respond to those in kind because it shows that you have a good, strong character you can take. Basically, insults are seen less as, like, you're trying to, like, actually insult them and more for criticisms of things you can improve and stuff like that. So you have to understand the nature of a Tellarite if you're dealing with a Tellarite. Control, fitness, and insights. They have a keen sense of smell and a high tolerance for many common drugs, toppins, and inhibients. So you don't get drunk, just feisty is what they describe it as. And that's when we're talking about actual alcohol and not even synthahol, which is meant to go out of your system very quickly. They have very good eyesight and acute perception. And they get insensitive scrutiny and sturdy. The scrutiny is they're better at looking through weaknesses, analyzing things and theories. Basically what it is their nature to kind of question stuff and be skeptical allows them to kind of deep dive into something and figure out more about it. And it's when you make a task with controller insight, you get bonus momentum. And it's used for obtaining the information momentum spending. You basically get an extra bit of information when you're doing a very successful at a task that involves controller insight. You get more information because you want to get more information. And then the sturdy are more resilient. It's harder for you to knock down, reducing knockdown damage by 1, and you get +1 resistance against non-lethal attacks. Tellarites are just sturdy people. Of course, then you have the Trill, who come from a home planet of the same name, Trill. They've got their spots on their sides. And they are known because they evolved a symbiotic relationship with another sentient creature. These symbiotes that are an important part of their civilization, their people. Basically, these, kind of slug creatures that exist within them that need a host to survive, really. And the thing about them is these symbiotes allow them to share memories and knowledge from previous hosts with the new ones. So there are many, and there's not a small member of joined Trill. Basically, those that do join with it. There are plenty of Trill that are out there, but very few of them that actually, join with a symbiote. Yeah. And so it's been over a century that Trill have been with them. They're focused on intellectual pursuits as learning and wins are prized by the symbiotes and their host. Basically, because the symbiotes, with those that have it, like knowledge and information, because you're in this kind of telepathic relationship with a slug being in your being, that has driven the rest of them that, even those that don't have it still pursue very large and lots of intellectual pursuits and stuff. You get patrol presence and reasons. You're resistant to parasites. It's a quirk of being the joined. Because you've developed this connection that they are susceptible and able to join with these symbiotic creatures, the symbiotes, they're resistant to other types of parasites heavily. And, especially if you're joined, then you are entirely resistant to parasitic infections. Though venom can have some disruptions on you because of your chemistry and stuff too. Again, particularly if you're joined, because then you've got an extra thing whether you've got the other being inside you. And there can be medical complications because of the joining. So there's two different traits, talents you can take: former initiate and joined. So former initiate, it's taken during character creation. It's the idea that you joined the initiate program to try to get a symbiote, and whatever reason you failed, you didn't qualify, and it was something else to do, though, was for you to then join Starfleet. Your amount of work you did to try to prove yourself worthy is enough to, like, kind of get into Starfleet then. And it gives you some bonus for that. And the other one is join. You've got a symbiote in you. And that one can give you kind of some bonuses for having, you know, past memories there. So it's a very interesting thing being a Trill. Then, of course, we got the Vulcans. I'm going to have to look up some pictures for some of the ones from the other books I'm going to note here, because they don't always have them in here. So I'll have to look them up and take a moment to do that. And it'll take a bit for some of these because I'm less familiar with some of the more unusual groups out there. Anyway, so Vulcans, stoic, rational. They're not technically emotionless. What it is that they control their emotions, and they actually have very deep and intense emotions. And it's a cultural logic and self-discipline where their emotions are kind of broken down and understood and taken at a rational level rather than that. So it's a science and reason culture more than anything. But they also, again, they say there is a lot of philosophy within the Vulcan side, and art and music, basically, that are connected to that. It's the fact that it's not that they don't have emotions, it's that they break them down, understand them, and take them as a logical thing. So it's sort of like, you aren't emotionless, you just, you know, don't show it. And they're very private people, so, you know, there's a lot of rituals they don't go with outsiders with. Control, finesse, reason. They're from an arid, high-gravity world, so they're resilient to extreme heats and dehydration. They're very strong, keen olfactory and auditory senses. So it's a arid world, higher gravity than what we have. There are many that are also telepathic and have various levels of telepathy. So they actually have 3 traits here. So Culinar, and it requires Vulcan or GM's permission. And the thing is, that's the important part about it. It's GM's permission. Is basically maybe someone could have undergone the journey to purge emotions as a non-Vulcan if perhaps you were raised by Vulcans and stuff like that. You could have taken the path of trying to be more Vulcan-like and become more accepted in their society. So I would want a really good story for that one. Of course, Mind Meld, and of course, Nerve Pinch again, Vulcan or Game Master's permission. You can see that they do, you know, talk about certain of these talents in the previous ones, where they do mention sometimes Game Master's permission for some of these, especially if you weren't adopted into that group there too. The Mind Meld is a Vulcan only. It's one of their telepathic talents. It's basically attempting to successfully transfer memories between two individuals, and the Nerve Pinch to, like, knock someone out. If you've ever seen original series movies and stuff, Spock can, like, pinch someone in the shoulder and they just collapse down. That's the Vulcan Nerve Pinch. I think that's it for our core rulebook here. Let's make sure that the next book is showing up here. As I X out that, let's see if it does. No. So I'll switch to that one there. Cool. That doesn't adjust it, right? Huh. It just doesn't want to be the same size as the other one. Unfortunate. We can kind of adjust it here on the fly. You hope things just adjust on their own, but they don't always do that. Okay. So, let's look up Arbazan, if I can find an image of Arbazan and show it to you people. Star Trek Arbazan. Alright, Arbazan. Neat. Let's just see if this opens up pretty successfully. So yeah, this lady here is an Arbazan. Just as this, I don't know if there's any better looks at them for Memory Alpha. The answer is no. So I'll do my best to do more of these as I can to show them off as best I can. But anyway, let's talk about the Arbazan a little bit. So this is like one of the early groups that the Starfleet met with during going into deeper space. And this is still Alpha Quadrant we're talking about. And this was, during the newly formed Federation, they were kind of welcomed into it. And because they're early in the Federation, even if they're not a true founding member, they're considered one of the almost a founding member by the time that they basically joined as soon as the Federation was kind of created. Very similar to humans, kind of their protrude skulls. They're very conservative values, kind of this big amount of self-confident, and have basic social protocols that are very important. So the idea here is that they like the traditions that are being established and stick with them and don't change a lot and keep to the cultural norms that have been established a lot. That is their society as a whole. They're a very conservative people. There are, though, that are more rebellious than the cultural etiquette that's very stifling in their basic society. And usually a lot of rebellious ones end up in Starfleet, and especially pursuing things like ships operations security, they say. Effectively, that's something you can be. Rebelling against the Arbazan way of life is going into something like security or something like that. So control, insight, and presence. Yeah. They often serve as ambassadors, advisors, and negotiators because of their very, conservative social protocol way. They make good ambassadors, honestly. And there have been some discoveries and scientific engineering that Arbazan have discovered that have been important to the Federation. So the talents you have are Cold Shoulder, Protocol of Politics. So Cold Shoulder is strong self-discipline, conservative cultural value. You're not susceptible to baser desires. You're good against seductive and attractive kind of things like that. And the Protocol of Politics is another one that, when it comes to kind of social conflicts, you gain bonuses during. So that's a very interesting one there. Arkarian. Let's see if we can find a picture of the Arkarians. God, reading these names sometimes. Arkarian. The Arkarians. Alright. There's an Arkarian. So let's talk about the Arkarians then. I got a picture of it there. So they're native to the M-class world of Arcaria on the Ramlar array. There was an orbital facility built up Bajoran particles, product of warp travel, the Arkarian base. So it's a member of the Federation and served throughout Starfleet and other Federation organizations. It's from the Next Generation era. It's known for as normal Weber patterns, very colorful sunrises and sunsets in every shade of color, and as well as higher than normal average temperatures. Yeah. They're very similar physically to humans, except for the brow ridges and such. And their size is beginning to shift away from more traditional Ktarian nobility to more common agrarian system founded throughout the Federation. So they are newer Federation members. So they were very authoritarian nobility people, and the egalitarian systems that are in the Federation are a thing that has been sort of adapting slowly but surely into their people. So certainly there's plenty of the egalitarianness that is in the Federation in the Arkarian during the Next Gen area as it's developing, but depending on where you are in the timeline depends on how well it's developing. and it's more interactions between them and Federation worlds. So the conservative minority does have some holds and social expectations. They're still there, but they're kind of disappearing as it is. So control, daring, and reason. You're direct and hardworking. Good at detailed orient work. Because of their historical Altharian nobility, you tend to be more socially reserved than other species. Probably more uncomfortable in social gatherings, not as good at small talk, things like that. And you're from warmer climates. The planet you have there is still M-class, but is higher than your average temperatures for like an average M-class world. So better with higher temperatures. And your talents are cool under pressure and quick recovery. Cool under pressure. Yeah. It's because of those social interactions. You're able to kind of keep that coolness. You know, your outward expression just keeps very inner social conflict. You've got some advantage, you know, because you're truly like you just know how to keep cool because of the natural social situations that had been in your people for forever long it was. And the quick recovery is you've got some you're good against things that do blunt trauma because of your bone structure, so resist that. The Aurelians. It's one of the few avian species in the Federation. They are renowned for their study of history and service to the Science Council. There are a few of them that serve in Starfleet, but most have science officers if they are doing that. So they're rare within Starfleet to begin with, and even those that do, most of them work science. Not to say that you couldn't be an Aurelian from in a different group here. You dislike enclosed spaces and have some kind of mod claustrophobia because, again, you're an avian species, you know, the air and stuff. So a lot of those that are in Starfleet go for planetary installations so they can spend their off-duty time outdoors. So it's an abnormally large M-class planet they come from, with a large expanse of scrublands and mild deserts, and they make their homes in the mesa formations of that planet. So they joined kind of in the middle time period. They're after the Federation was founded, but it was a while after the Federation was founded, but like before it would have been in original series. So they are capable of flight, because of the way that, you can fly. It's one of those things. Keen sight, natural sense of directions for kind of sensing magnetic poles, very avian. And the thing is, though, you do suffer from claustrophobia. But the severity is from individual to individual. So, honestly, if you wanted to be on a starship, you could be an Aurelian that has very mild claustrophobia and probably has to deal with that, and might do things like having to spend extra time on the holodeck where it seems like it's an open area to calm your mind. I believe probably the Aurelian planet. What does it call? Aurelia. The homeworld is Aurelia. I don't know what introduced them. It could have been something like the actually canon, but slightly not canon, Star Trek animated series, where they introduced the Caitians, which I think also might be in this book. Yeah, they are. The Caitians are in this book, and they're the next one we're going to talk about. So we will talk about that in a second, because they were introduced in Star Trek animated, and they are canon now. Cat people. Anyway, so aerial combat and keen senses. Keen senses is a very good sense of directions. Aerial combat is made to fight while in the air and stuff like that. And yeah, so there you go. Let's talk the Caitians, bipedal feline humanoids. They've been in Starfleet for a long time. They come from the homeworld of Kate. It's an M-class planet with a extensive grassland. Got sprawling city complexes that seemingly integrate into the environment. The Caitians have a very heavy respect for the environment. So the idea that they create these cities that are naturally integrated with the environmental is a very important thing. And I will tell you, yes, they were introduced in the animated series. You will see a Caitian in one of the movies. The makeup not great, but they are Caitian, and it's one of the original series movies, so it's from like the 80s. So makeup, not great, but it's there. They're extremely effective proud warriors. They've got artistic and philosophical endeavors in high regard too. They came into the Federation late 22nd century, and they are in all levels of Starfleet. There are flag officers, those that are elected to serve on the Federation Council as members of it. They're slightly smaller than your average humanoid species, but they've got a lot of balance, agility, and dexterity where they don't make up for it in having the same kind of strength because of their smaller build and stuff. And they do possess a tail. So it's one of the few exceptions for altering the, of course, Starfleet uniform. You can get an exception for your species to alter the uniform if it's a natural thing. They've got a tail. Their uniform can have a place for a tail to come out. So daring, finesse, and insight. They're slightly smaller than your average humanoid in most places. Most reaching between 5. They give the height here. They do have retractable claws of their ancestors and a flexible tail. They're carnivorous, prefer uncooked meat. They did evolve from predatory felines. And it turns out some of the greatest poets and philosophers within the Federation currently are Caitians. It's a good thing to know. So, their two talents are disarming nature and prehensile tail. Disarming nature... With a representation of their fierce warriors, despite that, they're very sociable and can put people at ease. So they're good at social conflicts to put their opponents at ease. And of course, their prehensile tail, which allows them to use it as a basic appendage. Turns out it's a little, it does help with balancing and climbing, but it is also prehensile. It can grab things that they have this tail with. So that's the Caitians. I'll have to look up a Cardassian image, but I mean that's one that's if I say a Cardassian, it's. I mean, if you watch DS9, it should be pretty obvious, but we'll go for what picture they have of the memory alpha here to show it off. They're showing off Damar, good old Damar. He had a interesting storyline. Started out as kind of a bad guy, became kind of a good guy, got killed. Spoilers for Deep Space Nine. Kind of got to be a better person and gets killed in the end. Good old Damar. Anyway, the Cardassians. So, this is the thing about the Cardassians. They aren't really in the Federation. I mean, post DS9 in the Dominion War, there's a much higher chance of a Cardassian being more willing to join the Federation. Certainly, because the Cardassian Union has had the shit beat out of it from a giant war where they were kind of sacrificed as things. And, the government that they had was destroyed 10 ways till Sunday. But if you're, during the Next Gen area, they're probably a lot more antagonistic. So the thing is, Cardassians tend to be disliked and mistrusted. They have a lot of art, music, and poetry. They are devoted to state. They've got aggressive military tactics, absolute faith in one's own superiority. They've been driven by capability and that success they've had. So their upper class tends to be very cunning, strategic individuals, and expect the devotion of the subordinates and families that are under them. And yes, though, again, not as much technology as the Federation, they have a very ruthless nature and very militaristic nature that tends to make them more matched with the Federation and Starfleet, with the number of engagements that have been over the last few difficulty. Yeah. And they have one of the best intelligence networks of all species in the Alpha Quadrant, comparable to the Romulans' basically secret police. Yeah, so that is basically the Cardassians as a nature. But a vacuum of power is very abhorrent to them, so they need to kind of fill it and stuff like that. So, yeah. So you're known to your dedication, discipline, mentally and culturally. with an emphasis on the state being number one. They are xenophobic, often seeing themselves as superior to others, and kind of arrogant, intolerant, cruel, and physically the same. So talents that they have, they've got 3 talents to choose from. Duty and discipline. When you assist a superior gains a momentum, a bonus of momentum. Suspicious by nature. When detecting hidden enemies, traps, and other stuff, you can re-roll a die. And augmented mind, a regimented mind. Oh, sorry, not augmented mind. Regimented mind. When you spend momentum to obtain information, you reduce the difficulty of the next task by 1, basically related to the information gain. So when you spend momentum to get some extra information, you make it easier. Again, the next generation era, certainly post the Dominion War, you could see I could see a Cardassian joining the Federation because, honestly, the Federation ended up helping free their homeworld. They joined the Dominion. It turned out to be a terrible idea. Not that the Cardassians already weren't in a lot of trouble because of a number of things with their government. There had some destabilization that had been happening over recent years. The Dominions swept in, got rid of that, made their society a little better, supposedly, but really things were being terrible there. The people kind of rose up multiple times, honestly. And so eventually, by the time that Cardassia, the homeworld, would be free from the Dominion, and the Dominion would have been kicked out, Cardassians are like, probably, honestly, might find joining another group fine. Edosians. So, they're tripedal species with 3 arms, 3 legs. They are not a member of the Federation directly, but they have a long alliance with the Federation since its earliest contact. There are a number of Edosians that then serve in Starfleet. It is rare, but not unheard of. Effectively, again, not a member of the Federation, but have long since allied with the Federation on a lot of things. It's effectively, they disagree with enough stuff that they don't want to join, but they're allied enough to be like, friendly towards it. Their culture tends towards inner reflection, a lot of historical records. Genealogy is a very important thing amongst their people, so they can trace back your family for a long period of time. And they live longer than Vulcans. So that is the thing. Vulcans live a pretty long time as species go. They live longer. So. And, 3 limbs. So 3 legs makes them a little slower but more stable than most it. But their arms actually are a little better because they are multidexterous and they can operate 3 different things at once with it. So, yeah. And with their long-lived, capable of deep thought, they do tend to just kind of fall into thought a lot of times. So their talents are multitasking and the long view. Multitasking, of course, is they're able to do more things at once. You can spend 3 momentum to benefit from adding additional senior officer role until the end of the cutscene. So basically, you can multitask really well for 1 episode. That really helps out in something. Again, I'm trying not to dive into the rules section of it because I will do a rules thing today. So, yeah. And because of the long lifespan and knowledge and stuff, you can use a milestone to exchange a focus. They can do so twice instead of once. So when you change your focus during a milestone, you can do it twice. Because of your long nature. Edosians, interesting one. Ferengi. Again, more recent, there are Ferengi that have joined Starfleet. Nog was the first one during DS9. But there have been changes in the Ferengi culture that have led to probably more being able to join. So they're a very profit-driven species, and when they ventured into the stars, it was search of profits and advantages in business, of course. And official first contact didn't happen until 2364. Yeah. So, originally, most of their culture, government, and beliefs are around the acquisition and retention of wealth. So they have this kind of greedy, duplicitous, conniving merchant kind of reputation. That's the word I'm looking for. The those that aren't obsessed with this are looked down upon by other Ferengi, but they exist. You know, those that aren't profit obsessed. So it's not like they aren't out there. So yeah, the Ferengi Alliance is basically a collection of corporate and business, private holdings, and territorial holdings. It has no military stand-in, relying on privateers and alliances with other species. And the society is very chauvinistic. So very male-oriented species. And again, they mention it there. There is a current change in galactic affairs. It's basically saying, like, towards the end of DS9, stuff happened on the Ferengi Alliance, and their society was beginning to alter in major ways. They got a new leader who was a lot less conservative and a lot more radical ideas on the way they were doing things. Began to alter some of the way that, there was already changes happening in Ferengi culture over the last decade in the DS9 timeline. So honestly, depending on when you want to go into, especially, I would say if you're looking to have Ferengi characters, especially in Starfleet, it would be after DS9's era, because it would be post the reformations within the Ferengi society. So they have a good sense of hearing, of course. They have very large ears. Probably some of the best in all the races that are out there. Of course, it does mean, sounds can cause them intense pains depending on it. They have hardy immune systems, immune to most disease, and they are good at labor, even though some consider them weak, because they're very, they're stout, and they're good for physical exertion over long periods of time. Though they do avoid hard labor, honestly. So their talents are, every man has his price, gain a bonus die when you engage in social conflicts to basically buy off someone, enticing them with monetary gains. Hear all, trust nothing. It's harder to deceive them. And knowledge equals profit. You can spend momentum to obtain information. Additional momentum is added to the pool. So Ferengi, interesting one to possibly play. Grazerite. I might just... let me see how long we're going. I might finish up Alpha Quadrant. I don't know if I'll do Beta Quadrant then, as we're going here. How many more do we have to go? Let me just check. 1, 2, 3, 4, it looks like. Alright, we'll see how we're going here. So their Grazerites are from Gazar. Again, this one I know less on, I'm going to be honest, so I cannot a lot differently. M-class planet. Yeah. So they are not a traditional humanoid by many parts. They're from Bovida. So more hoofed animals evolved into the humanoids that they have now. They're peaceful but have a lot of curiosity, a deep dislike of conflict, and avoid it if possible. Officers that go into the Starfleet pursue careers in most fields, but very few. It's almost unheard of that any serve in tactical or security officers. And it is considered impolite to leave one's horns and hands uncovered. So they often are seen with gloves or wearing a head wrap because of this. Control, insight, presence, patience. Powerful jaws, durable teeth. You can try to chew through a lot of hard substance. Doesn't mean you can't digest it, but you can chew through it. And you do have a difficult time digesting meats as a Grazerite. You are from a vegetarian's evolutionary. So, because your hands evolved from hoofs, your fingernails are extremely dense too. Capable for supporting their full weight. So they're very good climbers. So their talents are communal, horn sense. So communal is, they're very good at working with others because of their communal nature. Hey, herd animals. when your character with the talent providing assistance, you gain a focus, you gain extra focus and stuff. And horn sense, their horns are hollow. It's a genetic variation that some of them, and it can basically changes in air pressure and stuff like that, and all kinds of vibrations. Neat. Grazerite. Don't really know about a lot of them. Haliian? Haliian? Oh, here's another one I gotta look up. Surprised they didn't have the Cardassian image. Haliians. Let's throw up a Haliian image here. There we go. That's a nice Haliian lady for Memory Alpha. Thanks, Memory Alpha. So, they're from a Federation world of Haliian, known for its crystal formations and beautiful waterfalls. Great. They are a telepathic species. And the thing is, because of their telepathy, they do share some cultural things with things, let's say, like Betazoids. Think about it, Betazoids. You can't really hold a secret, you're telepathic, you know. It's the same kind of way, you know, you can't really share secrets. They do have a hard time connecting with non-Haliians, so that limits their interactions with other species, because it's just, their nature's a little different than, let's say, a Betazoid. A Betazoid's a lot better at connecting with other species. The Haliians, they are not. Yeah. And because of their telepathic abilities, they kind of go two directions. Either they're very physical in contact during social situations, or they avoid it like the plague. So it's either one or the other. And hey, they love holidays. They love a good vacation, apparently. A good holiday, a lot of good music. You know, I'll take that. A good holiday is always fun. Daring insight, presence. The big thing about that is, of course, they have telepathy. That's a big thing about them. Close family bonds, celebrate a lot of holidays and festivals. And, you know, they're not very good at deception because, again, telepathic. They come from a society where deception really doesn't show up. Their talents are contact empathy and faceted attention. Of course, the contact empathy, they need like a focusing crystal. Without a focusing crystal, they need touch. Basically, that you make a contact with another character and then you can kind of read them empathically. You can communicate telepathically with other empaths and telepaths, but those that you don't, you have to kind of like touch them to get kind of empathetic touches with, you know. And then the faceted attention, kind of draw your attention away from one thing to another. There's rules about it there, but, you know, faceted attention. Alpha. Hey, we got the Ktarians? We're going to say Ktarian. KT is a very interesting combination. They're physically diverse from each other. They come from the Ktarian. They're common throughout Federation space, and they are one that has their own fleet of vessels still, a merchant and military. It's kind of conserved a reserve force in the Federation. And so if something happens, there's like a big battle or war going on, the Ktarian military force, which is this kind of reserve force that they keep almost like a show, I would say, would be transferred under Starfleet command at time of need. So again, like it's like a reserve military, the Ktarians, and then they got their own merchant fleets and stuff. But they are a major species within Federation anyway. They are considered two separate species that evolved on Kataris. And there is intermarriage between these two species. So, you know, they are technically two species. They just can get together on their planet and stuff. So there is some, like, intermingling between them. And whatever traits manifest in an offspring are extremely difficult to kind of see. Yeah. And there's rumors that another group is an offshoot of the Ktarians, but that's a hard thing to say. Is there a way to tell the... Yeah, there's ways to tell the two basic species of the Ktarians apart, but you see them, kind of those that develop 2 different traits. So they're hard, determined, relentless people to pursue their goals. Intertwining of 2 native species has led them to possess the best traits of both. So basically, you know, 2 species have kind of gotten together. They're physically fit and quick-witted. Adapting to versatility with ease, really engage in negotiations unless they feel they have the upper hand. So that's a kind of interesting thing that, like, on their homeworld, 2 species developed, and, you know, they've kind of come together almost as one species now, because of a lot of intermixing between the 2 of them, that they just happen to be compatible enough, you know, that the 2 species kind of mix together. I mean, there's examples on our world of 2 different, but probably similar species getting together and having children that are oftentimes got genetic problems or are sterile. Not to say that there aren't ones that probably could not fit under those that just end up being the best of the best. Also, enough science and stuff gets together and you can kind of fix all the issues you have. Anyway, 2 talents, deep determination, and negotiate from strength. If you succeed on tasks that you spend a point of determination, you can spend 3 momentum to gain a point of determination. Basically, if you spent determination on a task and you were very successful, you can spend 3 momentum and get that determination back. Cool. You can keep your determination because you were so determined. And negotiate from strength is basically social-based thing. If you have enough kind of strength, you kind of like show yourself off and stuff like that. The Ktarians. And it looks like we end with the Zaranite. Let's look up what a Zaranite looks like. I do not know a Zaranite off the top of my head. There it is, Zaranite. Okay. Well, let's show some pictures here off of a Zaranite. They're not any good pictures of a Zaranite. Here's one. It's not a really great picture. Oh, all the way back. Here we go. Here's another. Oh, it's cutting it off a little bit there. Let me fix that. There you go. Zaranite. Very interesting group there. Let's talk about them. The mask and all and stuff like that, which are showing off here. They're a humanoid species managed to a Class K world. Okay. So, the thing about them is they developed on a planet that is very... The classes of worlds are basically... M class is like an Earth type, and the lower you get in class, the more hostile the planet is to your general life and humanoids. Turn out they came from a pretty difficult planet to come from. Endless volcanic activity supported the flourishing of chemothesis-based ecosystems. So it's basically not like a... not a plant-based society where you're working with the sun, you're working with chemicals. Basically think volcanic vents in the deep ocean where there's a lot of chemothesis-based creatures in there that begin their entire thing, except that's an entire planet of ecosystem that developed from that. That's a very interesting one since it's like a planet filled with endless volcanic activity. Zaranites evolved breathing on toxic volcanic gas, and so they have to wear a respirator providing a gas mixture that would be pretty lethal to your average Federation species. Okay. I kind of like these guys. They're kind of interesting. They're sensitive to light because of clouds in the space, so special eye protection, so that's why they have the mask where it has the chemicals being generated they need to survive, and also protects their eyes from light because they're from like a planet that is just filled with darkness. They're a member of the Federation. They serve in Starfleet, and so the Starfleet engineers have developed a standardized module for comfort atmosphere of crew quarters to meet their particular needs. They tend to be isolated from their other crewmates, depending on a respirator. And they are one of the few species in Starfleet able to survive hard vacuum. Oh, because they depend on a respirator to survive anyway. So that's actually really cool that they can survive in a hard vacuum. Control, fitness, and reason. They're hardly immune to toxic gases. Hate bright lighting. Able to survive the extreme conditions of a vacuum of space as long as the respirator tanks last. And they're resilient, if not somewhat reserved. They do serve in the scientific community and diplomatic corps, too, other than that. So, your true traits are hard and hide. Skin is incredibly tough, capable of withstanding pressures, temperatures, and acidity levels. Yeah, I know. I guess that's where the hard and hide comes from. Capable of standing pressures and temperatures and acidity levels that would prove lethal to other species. Their bodies are adapted to, like, such extreme conditions. Like, I would have to look up, like, what a Class K planet would all have. But that's... I know that's an extreme planet. Let me just... For planet classes. Okay. So, Class M is terrestrial. That's like a planet. Class L is marginally habitable with vegetation but no animal life. Class K is habitable as long as pressure domes are used. Class J is a gas giant. Class H is generally uninhabitable. Class D is planetoid or moon with little to no atmosphere. So Class A, if you have like a pressure dome, it could survive there, but you would need like something to specifically put in there. You need artificial biospheres for that. And of course there are Class N, Class R, Class T, and Class Y. Class Y is not pleasant. It's a toxic atmosphere, surface temperature exceeding a lot, lots of thermographic radiation discharges. D is uninhabited. H is just, kind of sucks. Then you got gas giants of two types. I don't know what N or R are, but neat. Mud. What the hell's mud? Huh. Anyway, so Class K. If you have something to live in, you're good there. Most other, species, not good time there. So the Zanarites live on a planet that, if a human had, a special area to live in, you're good. It's not gonna... See ya. Later, worm. So neat. That's the Zanarites. On the multi-spectrum Vidrum. Broader spectrum of light, most humanoids. It's a perception. Yeah, cool. But that is the Alpha Quadrant ones. Do we want to get... Let me see how many's in the Beta Quadrant. That's not what I wanted. That's not the one I wanted at all. We want Beta Quadrant. That was the specialized book there. There, that's it. How many are in here? Let's find out. We got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. A lot. You know what? Let's save this for another day. I did start a little late today. So anyway, I had to ignore a call because it's busy right now. Let's end it here. We'll do this for part 1. I'll do another part where I go over the Beta Quadrant and maybe Gamma and Delta Quadrant species, and I'll try to get these pictures together a little better for them, so we're not as distracted the next time we do one of these. And I'll try to get a hold of some of these groups a little bit better too, because these are a lot of interesting life path options that are different species that you can find throughout the various quadrants that honestly could in some way possibly end up in Starfleet here or there. Sometimes there's really low chances of that. Other times there's great chances of that or something. Let's see what it is. But anyway, I am going to say goodbye for now. Everybody remember, tabletop Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Buccaneers of the Shackled Sea if you want to see a live showing on Wednesdays. this week when this is recorded. One of the reasons I did this one today was, hey, May the 4th be the Star Trek, dating us a little bit, but if you want to check that out, it's going to be Thursday, May 4th, coming up in front of here, after when I'm recording this. So either check it out live on Twitch, or if you're seeing this up on YouTube, probably after the time that came out, check it out, because it should be up on YouTube. If not soon, if not right away, but already, but soon, if you haven't checked it out. That'll be a live Star Trek Adventures on, of course, making fun of Star Wars Day. And then discuss a couple on Saturdays. There's all my tabletop stuff. Remember to check out all my video game stuff on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays if you want to see that for my streams on Twitch. I thank everybody for joining me on both sites here. Remember, just support for followings, subscriptions, and stuff like that. Other ways to support me, check out the description below for both things to check things out. More Star Trek stuff to come in the future. We'll go over more of these. I don't know if it will be when the next time will be, kind of scheduling stuff, but expect more of them in the future. And honestly, until the next time we do stuff, I'm going to say farewell to all of you out there.